Well, hello everyone, and I'm going to talk about sketch modeling today, and also sort of point the way to how to keep your sketch model um, and not have to redo all of your work when you're ready to migrate to something that's more like a BIM workflow or construction documents or whatnot. And in preparing for uh, meeting today, I was sort of uh, looking at some old sketchbooks, and I came across this little sketch that I did in York many years ago. I can't for the life of me remember or find out what building that is. Obviously a church, but in any event, I kind of like the almost iconic um, sort of nature of the double gable there. Um, and so I thought, well, that might be a nice starting point. And so I did a few sketches, kind of playing with a simple layout of what a building might be, and some thinking about some elevations. Halfway through my sketch, I realized that I probably wanted to reorient this building a little bit differently. There's the cat, of course, because it's Zoom. Can't be Zoom without a cast. Um, so it turns out that I actually ended up halfway through this drawing, sort of flipping the orientation. So kind of nice, just use the mirror command in Vectorworks to just mirror the plan so that east was where I wanted it. So my thought is this is a simple sort of two mass building with some sort of an exterior port structure, and thought that could be sort of the basis of this modeling exercise. And just to take a step back, I've met quite a few Vectorworks users, a surprising number of Vectorworks users, in fact. And this isn't just Vectorworks, but that's who I tend to talk to a lot. But users who will maybe do schematic design or conceptual design in something like SketchUp, and then the project will get to a certain point, and then they'll one way or another manage to import their sketch model into Vectorworks. Probably along the way, they explode it, and so that it's just a series of lines, and then they use Vectorworks as sort of a 2D CAD program, which it's perfectly capable of doing, of course, but that's really quite inefficient. And then you go through all the trouble of making this sketch model as elaborate or as simple as you might choose, and then you almost have to redo the work all over again. So I kind of wanted to address that kind of workflow issue. Anyway, so this is our starting point, and I think I'll save view here. And so what I did is after I did this little sketch, as you can see, it's extremely rough. After I did this little sketch, I proceeded to scan it, and I dropped it into Vectorworks. And then I just traced that geometry with some rectangles. Oh, wrong tool. Trace that geometry with some rectangles, and that's going to be our starting point. So that's the exact same layer, and I just have the sketch turned off, and we're obviously in an isometric view. So I'm a huge fan of the rectangle tool, and tend to use it an awful lot. Um, so I'm going to be using a lot of that today. So the first thing is when you're drawing in Vectorworks with one of these surfaces, be it rectangles or circles or polygons, whatnot, even lines for that matter, you'll notice in recent versions of Vectorworks, there has been this new icon that has been added at the far right of your toolbar for that tool. And that's pretty new. I'll talk about that in a minute. But there's also this other icon here that my mouse is circling over, which is the push-pull tool or push-pull mode. So with that turned on, if you draw one of these surfaces, immediately after drawing it, if you hover your mouse over it, it highlights red. And that means that it's ready to be extruded. And so you can just pull it up. Now, if you go and draw something else and then you come back to it, it's no longer will highlight red this way. You can still extrude it though, a couple of ways. There's the old tried and true, you just click on it and you go to your model extrude command, right? Command E, and you can extrude it some height. There's also in the 3D palette, 3D modeling palette, there is a push-pull tool. And I'm going to leave that open. And so you can just go and highlight your object and just drag it up in that mode. So that's another way of extruding. So we're going to be doing a lot of so-called direct modeling. I'm going to try to stay away from keyboard commands as much as possible, mostly because it's fun to not have to do keyboard commands. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm just going to make sure that I am in auto plane mode over here rather than layer plane. It's not going to matter initially, but it's going to matter a lot in a minute. And so I'm just going to snap to this corner of my guide and drag over here to the other corner. And because I have this push-pull mode turned on, I can immediately drag that up. And I want these walls to be 10 feet tall. So I'll just type 120. You'll see in the heads up and hit return. And then when I let go, if I inspect that in the object info palette, you can see it's 10 feet tall. So there's one extrusion. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Only now I've got this other geometry that I can snap to. So I can snap over here to the corner of the first solid that I made. And so now I've got two solids. And I'm going to start over here in the bottom right. And I can't see the distant corner, but if I hold down the B key, that gives me X-ray mode. You know, makes sense, right? B for X-ray. And so I can find the opposite corner of that other rectangle. And again, immediately extrude and snap to the top. So now I've got these three solids, which represent the mass of my building. And there they are. You know, I'm in a perspective view, so I can spin around and have a look at it, do all that good stuff. That was pretty easy. Now let's go ahead and do a little bit of roofing. So there's lots of ways that we can do this. I'm just going to go ahead and snap to that surface. And then just draw another rectangle right on top of this one. Now, notice that I have this last icon here on the end that I mentioned to you a few moments ago. That's your combine mode. If that is turned on, when I extrude, that extrusion is going to add itself automatically to the surface that it was attached to. Or let's draw a circle. If I pull down and say snap to the midpoint of that edge there with that combine mode, it's going to create a little well for me. The round hole for the square peg, right? So in this particular instance, I don't want my roof to be added to my building. No, I mean, I guess I might, but anyway, for now, let's just turn that off. And then I'll just drag this and extrude it, and I'll just go ahead and make it 5 feet tall. So now this could obviously be a parapet roof, and there would be a way to do that, but I want it to be just a nice little gable end. Again, going back to that initial sort of little inspirational sketch. So I'm going to use another tool a lot today. This is the taper face tool, particularly for making the roof. And that's this tool right over here. And when I go away from the taper face tool and don't use it for a while and then come back to it, I have to remind myself of how it works. So anyway, maybe slightly counterintuitive. So you're going to click on two faces. The first face that you click on is going to be the face that is going to be fixed. And the edge of that face is going to be the hinge of the second face that you click. And the second face that you click is the one that you're actually going to taper. So I've got this rectangle representing my initial roof mass that I just made. So you can see that because I'm in shaded mode, if I were in wireframe mode, I would have the same issue. But because I'm in shaded mode, I can't hit the bottom face, but I want to. So here, the Option key is my friend. You can't see it, but I'm holding down the Option key, and suddenly I can select the bottom face of that 5 foot tall rectangle that I just created. And that Option key is going to be the key that you use in any case where you need to perform some 3D operation on a face that is occluded by your geometry. It lets you sort of select things that are hidden. So I'm going to click on that bottom face. Remember, I click on two faces. The first one is the fixed face, and the second one is the face that actually gets tapered. So I'll click on that, holding down the Option key, and you can see it's barely kind of highlighting red there. And then I can click on this second face, and as I drag that second face, you can see how it's sort of ghosting in. And I'm just going to drag it right to the center, to the midpoint, or to the center of this 16 foot by 16 foot by 5 foot tall solid. Now, I made it 5 feet tall, and that actually wasn't very smart of me, because what I really wanted was a 12 on 12 pitch, and I should have made it 8 feet tall, right? So that's okay. You can see how the angle is coming up here on my heads up display, the taper angle. So I'm without any modifier keys, I'm still holding down my mouse. I'm going to type 45, and you can see it goes into the taper angle, and I'll hit the tab key, and then it locks that face in at 45 degrees. So now I've got a 45-degree slope on that taper. So you can see how the taper face tool works. The first face that I selected, the bottom, is fixed, and the second one is the one that gets tapered. So I'll do the same thing again, hold down the Option key, grab the bottom here, and then hold down the Option key again to get that distant face and start dragging. Oh, I lost it, sorry. Here, why don't I do this? I'm going to grab the push-pull face and just grab that top and just keep, I don't think I want to do that, actually. I want to do this mode. There we go. So in that second mode, as I'm dragging that top face, it's going to, come to a point eventually. There we go. All right, let's go back to the taper face, and I will hold down the Option key, make sure that bottom face is nice and highlighted, and then hold down the Option key, get the back face, and now it's tapering, so I can let go of the Option key, type 45, hit return, and then let go. So, it took a minute because I was explaining it, but there you go. There's my sort of mass for my roof. So, but obviously that's just, that's a very simplistic sort of roof. So let's make the actual roof object itself. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool again. And again, I'm in this autoplane mode. So I'm just going to snap and draw a rectangle onto the face of that prism that I created. And I don't have the combine mode turned on. So as I start dragging, it's going to be its own thing. So I can drag up some distance. I'll just make it 8 inches. I'll just type 8, return, and let go. And so now it's 8 inches thick. And if I decide that I need a thicker roof, I can just go back to the object info palette. It's an extrude, just like any extrude. So I can change that to say, whoop, come back here, OIP. I could change that to 10 inches or 24 inches, whatever. I'll keep it 8. Okay. And of course, it is still an extrusion, like I said. So it behaves like any other extrusion. So if I double click on it, it will get me back to the rectangle that first created it. So I'll just tap over here and I'll reshape that to be 2 feet wider. And then I'll make it a foot longer in the other direction. So that'll give me a slight little overhang. And you can see that now that roof face is behaving the way it should. Okay. And now I'm just going to mirror it. So in my world, the mirror keyboard shortcut is M. It's probably different for you. And so I'm just going to, let's get in here just so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. I'm just going to snap from here to here. And we're mirrored. And then I'll do push pull. And I'll snap over here. Right. To fill in my gable. And then again, I can still do all the normal things that I do with extrusions. So I'll go to model and add solids, and there's my roof. So the point that I'm making is that even though we're sketch modeling, I'm trying to be as precise as possible with my dimensions. I'm not just being loosey-goosey. These are 16 feet on a side, or the module is 16 foot. They're 10 feet tall. My angle is exactly 45 degrees and so forth. And, you don't have to do it this way. You can, kind of eyeball it and it'll look about right. But I tend to be sort of uptight about that. Yeah. Sorry. Is there a question?
Yes. Is it possible then to convert that into a roof object later on?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. The short answer is some of this geometry, yes. Other geometry, no. And I'm going to show you the most efficient way that I know of to get it to work. There is no direct way that I'm aware of to convert this directly to a roof.
Francois, when you did the left-hand rectangle and extruded it, you were trying to get behind the solid, the obscured portion to get to that other corner. And isn't it possible just to select the rectangle and use the push-pull tool from the palette and bring it up? Because you're trying to find the back end of the back corner of the rectangle, which was obscured by the center solid. And I thought, well, why don't you just select the rectangle and then go to the extrude tube and tool, and you can just extrude it up.
Because that's 2 steps, whereas I can just hold down the B key and be done with it.
Oh, okay. Well,
plus it's fun having X-ray goggles.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bill, you're absolutely right. Or I could have just drawn the rectangle and hit Command E and extruded it. All these are all right. Perfectly valid ways to do it. There's no single right answer here. Okay, so I've got this guy, that's helpful. And so I could do the whole process all over again. Let me go ahead and make my gable wall. So you remember I had this little prism. Let me turn on my clip cube. I had that prism. So a couple of things I can do, I can just go in the object info palette and change its depth. Well, it's a generic solid now because I did a taper command. So I could try to figure out, well, is it 16 feet wide or 16 feet deep, and make it 6 inches? Oh, no, it's the other way. So undo and make that 6 inches. So make it 6 inches wide. And then I could select this solid, I mean, there's lots of ways of doing it. I'm just going to take the push-pull tool, and I'm just going to grab this face and just start pushing it in that direction. And do you see how it's giving me a negative value? So I'm just going to type negative 15 feet, 6 inches, hit return, and let go. And now I have a little 6-inch thick gable end wall. And pretty sure I can mirror that from here to there. Yeah, there we go. And then I mirrored it. There it is. There's the original. So now I can take my roof and that gable and this gable. Again, I'm holding down the B key and I'm holding down the shift key to see what I'm doing and to select it as a group. And then I'm just going to use move by points. And so that's this tool over here. Nice 3D or 2D drafting tool. And I'm just going to snap from the bottom right corner of this to the bottom right corner of that. And then I'll use the B key again. You can see I'm really getting into the B key. And I'll snap from here to there. And then I'll just, what could I do here? I could just grab that end wall from that center to that center, just pick it up and move it. And then I could use push pull, for example, just to grab the barge board, if you will, and snap to here, but I don't want it to be 15 feet. I want it to be 16 feet and let go. And there we go. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to go ahead, and I don't want these just to be like little Monopoly houses. I want these walls to actually have thickness. So let's get into some shelling. So here's the shell tool at the, I list the, no, I don't. They should be listed alphabetically. But anyway, here's the shell solid tool right over here in the 3D modeling palette. And I'm going to set that to 6 inches. And so if I just click on this rectangle, this face, and then hit the checkbox, you can see that it hollows it out, makes it a shell, but it didn't hollow out the top, right? So let me undo that. And so what I need to do is hold down, go back to the shell tool, get the bottom face, hold down the shift key so that I'm also selecting multiple faces. The shift key selects multiple objects if you're just selecting lines or rectangles, right? Works the same way for faces. So hold down the shift key, and then I'm holding down the option key to get, you can see I'm ghosting in that top face of that solid. And then I'll just hit the check mark. And now it has shelled it all the way through. It's made it, there's no ceiling in there. Yep. So I'll do the same thing over here, shell, hold down the Option key to get the floor. It might be tricky here. I might want to go in wireframe mode, or hold down the B key, or maybe even pivot to a different view. Hold down the Shift key and the Option key. Now I'm getting that one. Hit return. Is the same thing as the check mark. So once again, we look inside, you can see that I've hollowed it out all the way through. Okay. And I'm going to undo that. There's something else I want to do first. So this little mass to the west is intended to be sort of this enclosed porch structure. So I'm actually going to click on the double cube mass, the double square mass, bring it to front, that's Command F, and then select this other one here. Maybe I should go into wireframe mode so you can see it better. And then I'm going to subtract solids, and I'll retain the subtracting object. And so now this is a little L-shaped cube for my porch. So I'll go ahead and shell that. I'll do the floor, and then I'll hold down the Option key and hold down the Shift key to get the ceiling. But then I also want this face and I want that face, because I don't want there to be two walls right next to it, butting against each other. And I'll hit the checkbox or just hit return, either way. If I turn on my clip cube, you can see what I've done. I think you can see that. Okay, and now I'll go ahead and shell my main space. Where'd you go? There you are. Boom. Hold down the Shift and the Option key, hit return. There we go. All right, we're getting pretty close. That's something that's starting to look more like a building-ish. Okay. All right, but we probably need some windows in here. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So I've got the rectangle tool. I'm in autoplane, and I want to make sure that I'm in my combine mode here. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle onto this face, and you can see that it's 16 feet by 10 feet because, that's what it is. And it's just a 2D rectangle. And what I want to do here is I want to reshape it. Now, something I noticed is that the terms width and height get flipped in the object info palette. So if you think that this is the width, according to the description here, width and height, that isn't really. So just ignore the terms width and height, or the W and the H, and just rely on the aspect ratio of the arrangement of your 9 selection points. So from the bottom middle here, I'm going to make that 9 feet tall, and I'm going to make it 6 inches wide. I'm sorry, 6 feet wide, excuse me. Oh, got it wrong. 9 feet tall, 6 feet wide. There we go. Got myself all confused. And then I'm going to click on the top here because I don't actually want the windows to go all the way to the floor. I'd like those to be 7 feet tall. So now I have this rectangle that's 7 feet by 6 feet. And, there it is. You can see that it's just drawn on the surface here. So once again, I'll push pull, but this time I'm going to use this third mode right there and start dragging it. Let me hold down the B key so you can see what I'm not behaving. Let's try that again. Okay, I'm in that mode. So another important thing to know, I think this is what I'm doing wrong, is that right here next to my save views, I have view is relative to layer plane or view is relative to the working plane. I want to make the view relative to the working plane. So I should have this little pink rectangle. I think that'll then work. So I can just hold down the B key and drag it in. But it's snapping to a bunch of things. So I'll just suspend my snaps. Okay. But that didn't work. What's going on? This is what I love about these user group meetings is that everything works fine until, I'm recording it and then it doesn't. All right, well, I'll just go ahead and extrude that. -12. And then I'll select these two and under model, subtract solids. Okay. Not really sure why that push-pull didn't work. So again, just draw another rectangle, hold down the B key. Change that 32 to 6 feet. Change the 10 to 9. Reshape the 9 from the top down to 7. Yeah, that's really weird. I'll just subtract solids. Get the idea. I'd like to insert a door. Here we go. And make that 6 feet wide, 8 feet tall, perhaps. Extrude that. Select both of them and subtract solid. For my porch, again, I'll just hold down the B key, snap to that endpoint, make it 9 feet tall, say 12 feet wide, reshape it to be 7 feet. extrude it. Subtract solids. This opening's too small for me. So I'll just grab the push-pull tool, just grab that face and move it over -3 feet. And hold down the Option key to grab. Oh, I'm having a little difficulty with that, so that's all right. I'll just pivot it around. Push pull, grab that face, -3 feet. There we go. I can snap to things even if they're not in the same plane. And I'll make that extrude that. Subtract solids. My little porch. And so on and so forth. So if I want to do something like a corner window, be straightforward. Maybe snap to that midpoint. Make it 3 feet wide. 9 feet tall. Change the 9 feet to 7 feet from the top. Push pull. Make that 3 feet because it's a corner window. Grab those two objects. And before I do that, I'll go ahead and mirror that. Now grab all three of those. Track solids. Whoops. That's better. Do that again. I think that'll be enough. You kind of get the gist of it, I think. And go ahead and push pull. -3 feet. Only this one. Yeah, sure. Subtract solids. And maybe here I want a slightly higher sill. So again, push pull, grab that face, move it up, say 24 inches. So I can reshape those openings with the push pull just by dragging those jambs and whatnot. Now I've got some roofs that are kind of intersecting with each other. So I can certainly clean that up. Let's think about how we want to do that. Yeah, so why don't I do this? I'll just I'll make a group here just so it's easier to see. I'm going to take that gable end wall and this roof plane, or roof object. I'll go ahead and duplicate those. So, because I'm going to lose them along the way and I want to keep the originals. And then I'll select this roof and I'll group the whole shebang. So there's what my group looks like. And now I'll just take that and my friend, the push pull, just kind of go way out there. And drag it down as well. And so I can just take these two things, make sure they're brought to front. Command F, grab that, and model subtract solids. And go ahead and exit the group and then ungroup that. Yeah, and I should probably think about, cleaning up this roof face. But you get the idea. I can do some tractions. I can use push-pull. And eventually, get to the point where I've got my little sketch model.
Francois,
Yeah.
on the when you were creating the rectangles on the surface of the walls to do
Yeah.
windows, doors, and stuff like that, could you have also used the what is it, extract face or whatever mode in 3D modeling?
Yeah, the extract face mode just gives me a NURBS.
Oh, it's a NURB, not a rectangle.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So
Correct.
that's why you wouldn't do that then.
And so, yeah, and it's also just easier just to draw.
Gotcha. Okay, all right.
I think.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And first of all, I have a question about when you first did the general overall models of each of the section and maybe adding the roofs, is there a reason why you didn't subtract the main block of the house and the porch block of the house as like group each one and just subtract one piece from one solid from the other, or one group from the other? That way the porch would be basically wrapping around the main block of the house.
Oh, that's what I did. If I just grab my porch here and group it.
All right,
I did subtract.
So yeah, I know that, but in other words, the sequence by which you did it, I guess in other words, you're saying try to get the detail of the porch finished before you do the subtraction. Well, so what does it look like underneath in the other room, in the main room? So the gable end is still coming through there. Maybe that
Yeah. There's some there's definitely some cleaning up to do, right? Like I could
think if it was all a solid, wouldn't it have subtracted the whole? It would have carved out the porch entirely.
Yeah. So good point. So maybe another way I could have done that would be to I could have drawn some whatever. Yeah. And then I could have, say, drawn something over half. That's weird. So here's another way I could have done the taper face. Something like that. That's probably not exactly symmetrical, but so I could have done that, right, as a single prism, done the subtraction, and then I could have shelled that way.
Right.
Yeah. And for that taper face, if I wanted to have some sort of a guide, right, I could have just drawn a rectangle on that surface, use that as a guide, and then just taper face and snap to that rectangle. Now I have a nice symmetrical cable. Yeah. There's good to plan ahead and sort of think about your strategy so that you're not having to come back and do a lot of, cleaning up, for sure. Is that kind of what you were suggesting, Bill? Okay, so I get to the point where I've, you know, maybe now, maybe a little bit later, probably there's some more openings I can do and so forth. And probably not that exciting for me to do that repetitively again and again, but I think you get the idea of some different ways that I can make openings. I can, uh, draw a rectangle on a roof face and make it exactly, 30 by 30 inches and extrude it and subtract solids, make a sort of little skylight, whatever, that's exactly centered on that roof, right? But eventually I'm going to get to the point where I'm happy with it. I've been tinkering with it. Maybe I waited until I refined my roof face pitches before actually modeling the roof itself with the overhangs, right? To really use this sort of sketch modeling technique as a kind of an exploration. And then eventually I'm going to want to, do something, to Harlan's point, like make actual roof objects, make window objects, make walls and so forth. So in my file setup for today, what I did is I set up a story, and one of the story types that I created was sketch. So in other words, I've got a layer. Sorry, I've got a layer for my sketching, which is where I've been doing all of this, and then I've got a separate layer for a roof and a floor, sort of more traditional kind of BIM type layers. So it might be useful in using this kind of technique to keep all of your sort of sketch modeling on its own layer, and then using that as a kind of a guide or a trace or whatever to create your more advanced kind of non-generic objects. So what that's doing there. Oh, that's very weird. Let's try that again. All right, that was a weird little thing. Okay, so one way that I can create walls quickly is obviously I could just trace it, right? I could be over here. I could grab my wall tool. I could trace from the frame component to the outside face, and I could find my geometry. Notice I'm having some real difficulty snapping here, and the reason for that is that I'm in working plane mode. So what I want to do is if I'm drawing walls in 3D, is over here I don't want to be in working plane view relative to working plane. I want view relative to work plane. And so now when I start drawing walls, no, it's not any easier. All right, well, wonder what's going on there. Okay, well, it's behaving in that direction. Yeah, so can be a little tricky. So tracing walls, maybe not such a great solution. Let's look at another option. Just going to grab these three and grab my three shells and go ahead and use those as a basis for a clip cube, just so that you can see a little bit more easily what I'm doing. Right. So one thing I could do is I could, once again, snap to the bottom of these walls. And snap. Here. Layer plane mode. Sorry. Okay. And I don't know why it's not snapping to the inside corner. So I could draw that and create a space object, or I could simply under AEC create objects from shapes and just go with some walls. And the offset can be to the right. Right, left. And then it'll, create some walls for me. These are space objects. I can, under walls, create walls from spaces. I can put the source layer as sketch 1, but the destination layer could be my floor 1. And I can choose the style. So I get a lot more control from creating walls from spaces than I do from creating walls from just rectangles. So say my stucco wall, and I can place the inner side to the space edge, and place relative to the core component. So the frame component. I can, if my spaces are slightly skiwampus, I can constrain them to vertical or horizontal. And I don't even have to select my spaces. I can just do it from all spaces in the document or the ones that I've selected. So now if I go to my save view, right, you can see these walls have been created for me.
The first time you did this, before you did the spaces, you chose to outline the inside of where the walls were, and then put the walls outside of those rectangles. Would it have mattered if you had done it circumnavigated the outside of the rectangles, put the walls on the inside? Would it have mattered?
No.
Just checking.
No, probably would have been easier to snap to the outside of those solids than snapping to the inside.
I don't know. I guess it would matter if you
Um,
were in terms of a slab and you wanted your framing to be at the edge of the slab, then it would be important, but I wasn't sure if it made a difference.
Yeah. So once I have these walls, I can actually create a slab from walls.
That's right.
With the slab tool. There's my slab tool, and I can just pick some walls, choose my concrete slab, for example. I can pick all these walls. And it makes a slab. I could select all these 8 walls to Harlan's point and use a create roof command. And I happen to have a roof style here with a 12-inch eave overhang. And make it, say, a square cut. And I can retain the original objects. So you see the bearing height is automatically set to the wall height, which is defined by the story. Of course, these are, not gables, but I can change them to gables. And it's not quite as nice as just taking those. It's not quite as nice as taking those. Did not like that as a gable. So I'm probably gonna have to tinker with this to make that work okay. Another option would be just to let's see. That's probably not going to work. So I'll just
Can you use a magic wand tool to select all the walls?
yeah, but because I've got that gap, the particular geometry of this layout, Vectorworks isn't liking making those gables. So I'll just go ahead and create a roof from this rectangle. Just over there. Gable that. Gable that. And then, kind of do the same thing I did before, just sort of duplicate that and subtract those roofs from each other. For Windows, it's one of the reasons that I've got my model on another layer, my original sort of sketch model on another layer, is so that I have those openings sort of ready to go. So I can just building shell tool.
Francois,
Yeah.
before you go, isn't it possible just to go into a top view of that roof and clip it? Just draw a rectangle to get rid of the overlap?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of ways I can do that. So let's go ahead and do these other roofs as well. So I'll just go ahead and use my move by points and go from the top right here to the top right there. And then I can just use my reshape tool, right, this one right here, and just grab that end hold down the B key so I can see what I'm snapping to. Snap there. Okay. And then I can even snap to here, do a move by point, grab these walls. And move my point from here to here for my, oh, sorry. I did a mirror, not a move by point. Only those walls I have a stucco with a wall with stucco on both sides. And then I could just take that and rotate it, flip it horizontally. And then, join my walls. Normally would. That one to this one to that one. So one trick to figure out how to clip those rectangles to make those roofs work is just to select your 3 roofs and do a modify and convert to lines. But obviously I don't want to convert them to lines because that will destroy the rectangle or the roofs, excuse me. So I want to convert copy to lines and then do a hidden line rendering. And when I do that, it'll create a group. And if I look in the group, it'll give me sort of a line representation of what those roof faces would be like from a top view projected orthogonally down. So now I can just get my polygon tool and do a polygon for each of these 3 intersecting roof faces. And I'll cut them and I'll paste them in place. So this one can clip these 2 roofs. I think I can only clip 1 roof at a time. And I'll just reshape that end here and clip surface. And then this one will clip that roof. Hang on. Let me extend the bottom here so that it completely overlaps the roof. And that will also clip. So that if I look at that over here, you can see that your roofs are nicely sort of clipping each other.
So Francois,
Naturally,
when you're first doing the
Yep.
original model with the solids, and you decided to do the roof with the solids by each face, why wouldn't you have just decided at that time just to use the roof tool? Because wouldn't all these operations happen automatically, and then you could just duplicate it and add that to the roof layer?
yeah. So my underlying premise is that there might be some users out there who are comfortable with pushing and pulling and more sort of sketch modeling operations who
Right.
might not be as familiar with the roof tool,
Right, so you just
or
wanted-
that you can clip it in this way.
Okay.
And so, in practice, I I personally just jump right to walls and roofs and slabs because I'm very comfortable and familiar with those. But if you're just exploring and you're just playing with some shapes, I used to have a studio professor. He had like all these blocks of Dow styrofoam insulation and a hot wire, and he would just like make these little parti shapes, right? So that's kind of the process that I'm simulating here, if you will, Bill, that
Understood.
maybe yeah.
Yeah, but you
So
want all the steps to show how that actually works. There are other shortcuts that we can take later if we want to.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and I find that the roof object does so much for me that I probably wouldn't in practice, make these kinds of extrusions most of the time, unless I was doing something that some kind of geometry that the roof just doesn't really like to do very easily. So I could reshape these walls, just add some vertices to create gables, or use the fit walls to objects. Have Vectorworks do that automatically for me. When I get to these little trapezoidal walls, that gets to be a little bit trickier. And then lastly, for making windows or doors for that matter, I can just grab the window tool, and I'll just grab a window, and I'm just gonna stick a window, just somewhere in this wall. I'm not too picky about where it goes. And then with the selection tool, I can see that with those windows, when I click on the selection tool, the window gives me 8 corner points. So I can just grab this bottom one and snap to the bottom right corner, and take this top left and snap to the top left. And so now I've got a 6-foot by 7-foot window with a 9-foot head height. Maybe instead of a casement, I do I do a casement, but I'll do a biparting casement. Maybe I want lower windows and upper windows, so I'll just duplicate it. Just hit Control D to duplicate that. And you can see that window is in the wall. So I could just make it say, instead of 7 feet high, 7 feet tall, make it 5 feet. And then I could just grab this other window that's still 7 feet tall and use that sort of reshape functionality to, snap to the endpoint. Like that. So this is sort of one slightly more sketchy than or kind of a sketch modeling technique, rather than sort of selecting a specific window size from a catalog from a manufacturer and getting the rough opening and the unit size and so on exactly right. I'm still in sort of a SD mode over here. Likewise, same thing with the corner window, and I'm just snapping a window wherever, somewhere in that wall, and I can just snap to my other layer. And just make it as wide as it can go. And then make it a corner window. Yeah, there it is. It automatically selected corner window when I dragged it to the corner. I'll give it a corner post. snap to that endpoint. And just drag that window here. It's a corner window. Then I can just hold down the Option key to duplicate it and snap it into this wall. Snap again to my extrusion. So there are my corner windows with my post. So with the exception of sort of the space tool, I'm really not, flat out converting that that model, but really sort of using it as a guide, kind of trace over it, and being able to sort of direct model my windows and being able to drag them around from their edge and corner points is really kind of useful for this level of modeling. And same thing with doors. Just plop a door in this wall. And snap, snap, snap to there, and make it a bipart. And make the leaf type glass. And so forth. So, pretty quickly that gets turned into something that has walls, roofs, slabs, whatnot.
Turn off the
Really, I
sketch.
would start with, I'm sorry?
Yeah, what happens if you turn off the sketch layer to see what's left? Can you do that, or is that not
Sure.
gonna-
I mean, I need a slab for my porch. Some things I need here,
That's a good way to
but
see.
comes along pretty quickly. And again, these I might do as double units. So I'll just duplicate that. So now I've got two of them, both in the wall, just like I did before. One's 5 feet, and then grab the lower one and snap it to the upper one. There we go. A little more definition than just that, right? But really, I would probably where I would start would be with walls. As I'm making that conversion from the sketch object to a more fully developed BIM model, it start to walls, because from walls I can generate slabs, from walls I can generate roofs, and of course I need walls to insert windows and doors. So walls are kind of the starting point. Well, I think you kind of get the gist of it. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, one question about when you did the double window, that was a very cool trick, the duplicating. Is there a problem with mirroring windows, or does that get confusing with the direction? I think I've done it. It wasn't a problem, but I'm not sure.
No, mirroring windows works.
Yeah, for example, corner windows, you drew one, you could have just gone to the, you could have, it would have worked if you mirrored that to the front corner.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. So these two are nice. I think that'll work in 3D, but I might need to go to plan view for that. Interesting. So it says it's in a wall. I only have one wall there.
I mean, that's the problems I've had sometimes is that it creates the window, but it doesn't insert it into the wall.
Well, the object info path says that it's in the wall.
The first one, yeah, is a mirrored one, though, is a problem.
Well, it still says that it's in it. The OIP says that it is in the wall, but whether it is or not. That's funny. I mean, not funny. It says it's in the wall, but it's not.
Did you have the mirror line
Interesting.
edge of the roof or the edge of the wall? Or maybe the mirror line has to be.
I use the ridge of the roof as the mirror line.
Maybe the mirror line has to be actually on the wall surface for it to work.
Not sure why that would matter, but you know.
I don't know either. Nope.
Yeah, unlike that. Odd. I mean, you can do all sorts of things with, I mean, you could even do, I could take these three windows, for example, and I could even do a distribution, and it could distribute the windows in the wall. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with windows and walls that are, kind of surprising. Yeah, it says it's in a wall, but it's not. So, typically,
The crickets
well, there.
roof tool, right?
Did you say crickets?
Because they're going to need them.
Definitely going to need them. Yeah. Yeah, for the crickets, I would probably make those with roof faces.
Yeah. Doesn't the way to automatically?
To make them automatically?
Yeah. Like if you're doing a flat roof, you can sort of just draw lines of where it's going to pitch to. I thought it gave.
Yeah. But that's not in this case.
That's right.
Yeah. So what I might do here is I might just do something like start drawing a rectangle, convert that to a polygon. Do I really want to do that? Sure. Get rid of that corner.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and create a roof face.
Right.
I don't know, say 3 on 12. So one of the interesting things you can do with roof faces that you can't do with an entire roof object is use the join command on it. So I can do a join and click from that sort of half cricket to this main roof and click from here to there. It should be reshaping that. Why not? Interesting. Well, oh yeah, no, it did it. There it is. See how it trimmed off that roof?
I'm surprised with all the tools they've made, they haven't made a cricket tool, because it's a fairly common event.
Yep. And then I'll just mirror it. And if I don't get them just right, I can join them to each other. So I got some cleaning up to do here at the bottom. And this roof style is these components. Look at the components. They all have overhangs built into them that I would get rid of actually. And delete that.
Would it make sense a new roof style if you have a lot of crickets, just for crickets?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just pick that up and put that. So that's a little cleaner. Maybe make them, I could make them super steep too, right? And move those up. And then should be well, now it's not wanting to. I'm not sure why it's being inconsistent. Anyway, generally speaking, I find the easiest way to make crickets are with roof faces. Yeah. Well, I keep doing the same thing and it's behaving the same way, which is it's just ignoring the reshape. So it's got the bottom part here. It's just not extending it. So here I'd probably, I would probably just take this face and bring it to a point. Take that face, bring it to a point, exit the roof, and then mirror it.
Oh, that worked.
Yeah. Sorry. Awfully steep for a cricket. All right, well, and other questions? I see I've got a couple of comments in the chat that I've ignored. Sorry about that. Oh, Gail's saying goodbye, and so is thank you very much. Any other questions from anyone?
No, but thank you. You did the whole thing in 3D, which I'm impressed by and always afraid to do. So that's cool.
Well, it's more fun and more opportunities to embarrass yourself. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great end of year, and I will see you in the proverbial next year.
Well, thank you,
Thank you,
Francois.
Francois.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.